Hello, my name is Gregory Asplund, and I am an elementary instructional coach working at West Prep Academy in Las Vegas, Nevada. The purpose of this video is to explain some concrete strategies that can be used for multiplying fractions by whole numbers. In the Common Core, fourth graders are expected to be able to multiply fractions by whole numbers using their previous understandings of multiplication. The thing is that this is not how we've traditionally thought about multiplying by fractions. When multiplication is introduced in third grade, we instill in the students the idea that they are creating groups. So let's consider the problem 2 times 3. We can think about that as 2 groups of 3. Right here I have a group of 3. Right here I have a group of 3. When I count these, I have 6 in all. So 2 times 3 is 6, because 2 groups of 3 is 6. Let's consider multiplying a fraction by a whole number. So we have 4 times 1/2. Traditionally, we would say 4 times 1/2 means half of 4. But this is a big disconnect from the previous understanding of multiplication that has been built in third grade. Students are looking at their factors and thinking, my first factor tells me how many groups I have. My second factor tells me how many are in each group. So if you look at the visual model we have here, we have 4 wholes, but half of each whole is shaded. We have 4 groups with 1/2 in each group. So I can rearrange these halves. So I've rearranged these halves, and now that I see 4 times 1/2, or 4 groups with 1/2 in each group, is equal to 2. Students can take this understanding further than unit fractions. So now we have another visual model. This time we have 4 times 2/3. We have 4 wholes, 2/3 of each whole is shaded. 4 groups with 2/3 in each group. So again, we can go ahead and rearrange. And we see that we have 2 wholes and 2/3. So 4 times 2/3 is equal to 2 and 2/3. Now, and also in preparation for algebra readiness, we also want some familiarity and comfort with the improper fraction. So in this case, we'd be able to count up those thirds and also know that 4 times 2/3 is equal to 8/3. This understanding can be carried further when students multiply a whole number by a mixed number. Here we have a visual model for 3 times 1 and 1/2. Again, like in our previous models, I have 3 groups with 1 and 1/2 in each group. We can rearrange and see that we were able to create a new whole. So now we have 4 wholes and 1/2, which we can write as 4 and 1/2. From our third grade standards, students also have an understanding of multiplication as repeated addition. So if I were to look at a problem like 4 times 1/3, I would know that this means 1/3 added together 4 times. Once students have a basic understanding from the visual models, taking it to repeated addition should be an easy transition. We see that I have 3/3 here. So that is my whole, and I have 1/3 remaining. So 4 times 1/3 is 1 and 1/3. Repeated addition can be carried over into fractions that are not unit fractions, but this is a little bit more complicated and will require students to have some knowledge on how to decompose fractions. So if we were to use repeated addition to solve 3 times 3/4, we would add together 3/4 3 times. The difficulty is it's not necessarily apparent how we're going to make those wholes right away. But I look at the last 3/4 and I can decompose that to 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4. To find 4/4 to make my first whole, I have 3/4 here and 1/4 here. To find another 4/4 to make my second whole, I have 3/4 here and I have 1/4 here. I have 1/4 remaining that does not make a whole. So counting up my wholes, I have 1 whole, 2 wholes, and 1/4. So my answer is 2 and 1/4. This is a model that students created with pattern blocks to solve the problem 7 times 1/2. In this case, the trapezoid was the representative of 1/2, and the hexagon was the representative of 1 whole. So we have 1, 2, 3 wholes and a half. 7 times 1/2 is 3 and 1/2. Here we see another student who was solving 7 times 1/2 and has taken the pattern blocks and represented them in an illustration, arriving at the answer of 3 and 1/2. This student used a visual model to solve 9 times 1/2. Her circles represent 1/2, and she knew that if she boxed 2 circles together, that would represent a whole. This student used fourths of a square to solve 8 times 1/4. She created 2 squares, knew that she was able to make each square into 4 pieces, numbered the pieces to represent those 8/4, and arrived at a product of 2. This student was solving 1/2 times 9. The student used the commutative property to change it to 9 times 1/2, and then used repeated addition, grouping pairs of halves together to create wholes and arriving at a product of 4 and 1/2. I hope that you found this video clarifying the Common Core standards for multiplying by fractions in 4th grade useful. Please feel free to contact me with any questions or comments you have regarding this video, either via email or Twitter.